As I'm sure everyone has learned by now, on January 1st, there were multiple attacks right here in America. Now, the situation that went down in New Orleans is getting the most attention, and rightfully so, because unfortunately, so many people lost their lives. But this other situation that happened in Las Vegas with the Cybertruck at Trump Tower, man, oh man, does that story, that entire situation, it stinks to high heaven. Now, don't get me wrong, both stories are kind of off. And when you look, there are certain connections between both stories. And it makes you wonder, are these acts directly connected? But as I was looking for the connections between what happened in Las Vegas with the Cybertruck and what happened in New Orleans, I started finding weird little connections between the Cybertruck story and the guy, Mathew Livelsberger, that was inside the Cybertruck. I started finding connections between that story and the crazy drone invasion that we've been going through. Now, at first, I was finding little small connections. Like, for example, Mathew Livelsberger had a YouTube channel. He did not post any videos on that YouTube channel, but he had an entire playlist about drones. Various drone videos from all over YouTube. He created a playlist that he had on his YouTube channel. Now, that's not something really significant, but as someone who's been covering this wild drone story for like 2 months, I'm looking at any and everything connected to drones. So when I saw that, I was like, this is kind of odd. And then, of course, it came out that this guy was Special Forces, Green Beret, but not just that. He started climbing the ranks. He was high up there, had access to a lot of classified information, a lot of top secret military information, and it just so happens that more recently, he was working with drones. And I don't mean he's just a grunt on the ground working with drones, no. He was given the position to oversee the integration of drones in the U.S. military. How we could make drones part of our military strategy moving forward. So this is a guy that had extensive knowledge about drones. And I just found it weird that after serving our country for 19 years, around the same time this crazy drone story is going on, all of a sudden this guy loses it. All of a sudden, no signs were there as far as we know. And I explained this in a past video, but if you're someone that's getting access and clearance to all of this super secret, top secret information, usually you have to go through all types of background checks. You know, they're making sure you're not crazy. They're doing mental checks on you, all of that. Yet somehow, some way, dude lives a normal life and then starts working on these drones, gets access to this top secret information about what we're doing with drones in the military. And then we got these drones flying over the U.S. And then this guy decides, you know what? I'm just going to freaking just blow myself up in a Cybertruck out of nowhere. So, you know, I saw certain connections, but it wasn't enough to really point it out because, yeah, this is weird. This is a weird coincidence. But I can't sit here and say that, oh, you know, what happened in Las Vegas with the Cybertruck is directly tied to drones. I can't say that, even though we can 100% confirm that Mathew Livelsberger, the suspect, was working with drones in the military. Well, I mean, the story stinks for so many reasons. I put out a whole video explaining some of the reasons. Go watch it if you haven't already. But the main thing that really stuck out to me, that really just made me say, you know what, I don't believe anything anymore, is when they claimed that his remains, they couldn't identify his remains. They were too charred, right? They were almost destroyed in the explosion and in the fire. Yet somehow they got this guy's ID, his driver's license, and his passport. All on him, right? And they're all okay. Everything else in the car is destroyed. The guy himself is utterly destroyed. Yet the IDs and stuff in his pocket and the passports, they're all okay, right? Just like with 9/11 when they find the hijacker's passport on the ground in the rubble of the World Trade Centers. In this situation, it just so happens they find this guy's passport ID. Everything's intact, but nothing else is. All other evidence is destroyed except for the key evidence we need to identify the man behind this act, right? So that really stuck to me. I really thought that was weird. Now, fast forward to today. We already have a bunch of text messages and stuff that was from Mathew Livelsberger to his ex-girlfriends and stuff like that. And in these text messages, he doesn't sound like someone that's about to do what he did. He doesn't sound like someone that's about to try to end himself. He sounds happy in these text messages. He's talking about how he rented a Cybertruck. He feels like Batman. He's having the time of his life. He's now working on drones, all of this other stuff, right? Well, now there's a leaked email. And it appears that this email is real. I'm still hesitant right now. I'm still hesitant on what to believe. But several news outlets have already picked up and reported on the email. This email was sent to another content creator. And in this email, from Mathew Livelsberger, allegedly, the guy is warning people about drones. The drones that we've been seeing in New Jersey, he claims they're coming from Chinese submarines. And this is like when the story just gets really wild. I'm just going to go ahead and just read you the email straight up. Instead of, using my own words to explain things, let's read the email straight up. In case I do not make it to my decision point or onto the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until January 1st and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under any duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft by most recently China and the East Coast, but throughout history, the U.S. Only we in China have this capability. Our OPCEN location for this activity in the box is below. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they used the balloon for SIGINT and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comms system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned AC aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. USG needs to give the history of this. How are we employing it and weaponizing it? How China is employing them, and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico. But I won't, because they know I am armed and I have a massive VBIED. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile, and I have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimroz province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes. of over 125 buildings, 65 were struck because of CIVCAS, or CIVCAS, that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft in CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was a part of that cover-up with the U.S. FORA and Agent Blank of the DEA. So I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with Jen Miller's IO staff on this, as well as the response to Bala Marhab, AOBS commander at the time. Redacted can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war that is a mutually assured destruction situation. For vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Mathew Livelsberger, an active duty 18Z out of 110. My profile is public. I have an active TSSCI with UAP and USAP access. So that's just, it's a lot to unpack. I get it. It's a lot for me to unpack as well. But allegedly, supposedly, if this email is real, Mathew Livelsberger was claiming that he had access to all types of information, including knowing about war crimes and even participating in the cover-up of some of these war crimes. And he claims that he was being followed. He wasn't sure if it was the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, or what have you. He even mentions that there was an abduction attempt, that someone tried to abduct him. I don't know, kind of weird. He says that he was maintaining a very public profile, so it doesn't seem like he was trying to lay low. Maybe that's why he got the Cybertruck. I'm trying to stick out as much as possible. There's not a car on the road that sticks out more than the Cybertruck. He was having recent conversations with ex-wives and ex-girlfriends, sounding like everything was okay. But from here, it seems as if his reasoning behind doing this, if he even did this, because if this email is real, then I think there may be a possibility that Mathew was wiped out. You know, you're in a Tesla Cybertruck. Those things can drive themselves. The more and more we move towards electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles that drive themselves and stuff like that, you better be careful. I would not trust it. In fact, I think my next purchase, I'm going to buy a freaking old car that's not tied to any of that stuff that they can control. Because with the flip of a switch, you could be driving your family, minding your own business, and who knows, someone behind a computer somewhere can click a button and your car will drive into a crowd of people without you even controlling it. So when you're looking at the situation and you look at this email, you kind of wonder, did Mathew do this himself? Was it all too much for Mathew and he took himself out? Or was Mathew revealing information about this recent drone invasion? Did Mathew have access to information that they didn't want to get out there, so then they deemed Mathew as a threat and they took him out? Regardless if the email is real or not, and it's looking like it's real right now, but regardless, this story doesn't add up. The story stinks to high heaven, like I said. But there was a recent press conference, and they claim that this is the note that Mathew left behind. And it's different than the email we read. And listen, I don't know what to believe in this story. All I know is I definitely don't believe the official narrative. But here's some of the details that were released during the press conference. It says that Mathew left a letter saying this: "We are the United States of America, the best people to ever exist. But right now we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I needed to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. Now, in the email, he mentioned that he was part of, the cover-up of these war crimes involving drones, and that he was part of targeting the buildings that they eventually struck, some of which had civilians and innocent people in them. So when he's talking about getting rid of the burdens of the lives he took, he may be very well talking about that. So right now we kind of got a little bit of conflicting information. We got this leaked email that's out there, and then we got the press conference. They're not necessarily talking about the drones, but there's still the sentiment of, America is sinking, we're kind of under attack, and, we need to raise awareness about that. I want to relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. So yeah, even the information that we get out of the press conference, in some ways it kind of lines up with what we're hearing from this email. But I do not expect the authorities to ever give us the full truth about what's going on here. I'm tired of the FBI and stuff investigating all of these stories, because half the time they're connected to the stories or behind them in some odd way or form. So the reality here in America is the agencies that we depend on to investigate these issues are often causing these issues, or at the very least they're aware of these issues before they even took place. You know what I mean? How often do we hear, oh, he was on the FBI watch list. Oh, the FBI was aware of him. You know what I mean? But right here, in the middle of all of this drone madness we have going on, I didn't expect that one of these stories would be tied to that. Yet we do have these direct connections. And if what this guy says is true, these drones are coming from submarines off the East Coast. And it's kind of like a show of force. And this is... When I gave my opinion about what I thought was behind the drones, it was this. Some people were thinking, oh, it's the U.S. military. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's this. I've been telling you all from day one that my number one theory is that this is China. And now we have this guy who just took his own life in a Cybertruck, claiming that China is off the East Coast with all of these drones. They've been doing it for years, but now there's this recent uptick. And at any given moment, if they want to, they could strike us. They could carry out an attack. Really weird stuff. Really weird stuff. I'm almost at a loss for words here, because it literally feels like every day we wake up, there's a new psyop. Go to sleep, you wake up, there's another one. You never get to the bottom of the last one, because there's 4 more to look into. And now we got to look into these connections between the drones and this guy who decided to do what he did. And what he did, it just does not add up. It does not make sense. Now, the fact that he said, oh, this isn't a terrorist attack, maybe that lines up with why he didn't rig the Cybertruck to have an even bigger explosion. Maybe, I don't know. We're trying to find explanations for things that are hard to explain. And you got to try to put yourself in the shoes and the mental state that these people are in. But that's hard to do as well, at least for me. So as of right now, there's still a lot of uncertainties here. But regardless, we do know that this guy is directly tied to drones and the integration of drones into the U.S. military. And I do find it odd that in this time period where we have all of these drone stories in the headlines, this guy just loses it and takes himself out. But supposedly, allegedly, from what he was saying, he was being followed. That they were always going to try to take him out for what he knew or what he might say. But for now, I want to hear your thoughts about this down in the comments below. I want to go do some more research. I want to go do some more digging. Maybe connect some more dots. Maybe even debunk some of this stuff. Because look, when we find out something's not real, we say it here on this channel. I'm not here to try to misinform or lead anyone astray. But we got to go over everything that is coming out. For now, though, let me know your thoughts below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next video.